What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about some very key levels to watch for and some big news that came out from Morgan Stanley. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15. And this offer's been extended until March 31st. So check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's talk about the markets. So we had a very interesting day so far. The market got our PPI reports. The data was not too bad, and we saw a nice little rebound. But then as time has progressed, the rebound has failed, and the market's beginning to slow down right now as we're starting to see a lot of tickers turning red. And Tesla, of all things, went from being up almost 3% to up only about 1%. So the question is, what's happening so far to Tesla and the markets? What is going on? Let's first talk about some news, then I'll break down the data and the charts. So there's a lot of headlines that came out yesterday, which is why Tesla got that little spike. We got headlines about how Tesla could double to $800 per share, according to Morgan Stanley, in their new bull case. And I didn't really get a lot of time to go into the full details about this. So I just want to talk a bit more about this before I talk about other things. Just know that this is very important because Tesla has been in the 400s for quite some time, but Morgan Stanley has raised their overall price target on the stock. Now, this is the bull case when they're being a lot more optimistic. They initially had a $600 price target. They increased it to $800. And they have a 4-star analyst known as Adam Jonas who's leading this analysis. So he believes that as time goes on, the global competition is going to heat up. So when it comes to EV sales, it's going to get trickier, and there's going to be a lot of competition with all these new companies developing. And what's happening is the other competitors of Tesla are also improving thanks to Tesla, because remember, Tesla is the one that released their blueprints. They're the ones who are trying to help the others grow as well, because Tesla's main goal has been to not just be number one, but to help humanity sustain itself, and then simultaneously transition away from fossil fuels and eventually just prioritize EVs. Now, the thing about that is, I understand that Teslas are not completely clean right now. It does take a lot of fossil fuels to produce their batteries and such. But as time goes on, as they mass produce and such, that's going to help them improve in a lot of different ways. And there's been a lot of talk about how Tesla's working on different mechanisms to make their cars cleaner, right? Produce their cars with less carbon emissions and such. But anyways, I'm not going to go too full into the details about that. If anything, Tesla is in the right track at helping, the earth in a lot of different ways. And I just want to say that, as we eventually start this transition, as we transition away from just using gas powered cars, there's going to be not only more competition, but a big emphasis on the need for Tesla to continue to sustain itself with innovation and such. So that's what we heard Adam Jonas talking about, the importance of innovation. And then he mentioned that the innovation is going to be led by AI. So AI is going to be a big part of that. He started to talk about how AI is going to be a part of Tesla's competition, and it's going to help Tesla in a lot of different ways, especially as it's way ahead of the curve. And as we approach more and more of these developments in AI, as we start to see more and more of the global fleets driven and more data is collected, he believes that the autonomous ride sharing subscription based services are just going to generate so much revenue for Tesla. It's going to be a high margin type of revenue. And they believe that as time goes on, this is going to help the share price absolutely explode. They also believe that we're going to be looking for insane amounts of returns at about a generation of about $1.46 in revenue per passenger mile. And they're going to continue to see some massive growth thanks to that. So the bull case, because of autonomous driving technology, because of the fact that Tesla has massive cost saving mechanisms to help them in a lot of different ways, improved safety and performance conditions in autonomous driving, AI in itself, and then the growth that's going to come from Tesla's robotaxi, they believe that the bullish case for Tesla is going to be an $800 price target. And it doesn't even factor in additional AI applications. I did mention this, such as humanoid robots or even aviation. They mentioned that as well. But the main thing is Optimus is not even accounted for that. So the share price could go into the thousands for even the shorter term if they do give us big developments with that. So that's what they are arguing. I agree with their points about how bullish this is going to be. In terms of the time frame, I can't make any promises about that, but I just want to say it's very bullish news. Anyways, talking about what's happening with the charts now, I just want to focus on this. So just know that as far as the future goes for Tesla, For the shorter term, what's going to be impacting the markets is going to be our data. So that's also going to be affecting Tesla. PPI month over month was very much just decent, below expectations. But on the year over year basis, there were increases which were still aligned with expectations. So despite the fact that the data was aligned with expectations, unfortunately, there was still a slight increase on the year over year basis. And that's why we started to see the share prices of these stocks slow down. So tomorrow we have CPI data coming out, not to mention big bank earnings. That's going to be the next factor affecting us. So just keep that in mind. And we'll see what that leads to. But for now, Tesla has a slight downtrend that's being respected. We were trying to hold above 420. We weren't able to do that. We pushed to 420 and rejected near there. So now we're barely holding our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame around 407. If we can't hold above that or close above that, there's going to be a risk of us dipping to 400 flats. There is a confluence of support at the 20 EMA and also this trend line over there at 400. That's the next main support for Tesla. If we get back above 410, we're looking for 414. If we can't do that, we're looking for 407. If not, back down to 400. And so far, we do favor a move back down to 400. So please keep that in mind. Now, despite this happening, don't be overly bearish or too don't keep your heads down, if anything, because this is going to be dependent on the very, very notorious CPI report that's coming out tomorrow. So that could still help Tesla bounce like crazy, or it could get a big rug pull. So just keep that in mind. Although we are looking weaker today from the pump and rejection, although we could be dipping to the lower 400s for Tesla, tomorrow there's still hope. We'll have to see what happens with CPI. On SPY, we are dumping right now. We pumped very nicely to about 585. We weren't able to sustain that. I did give you guys a warning about that in my morning video. But just know this. When you zoom out of SPY, there's a possible inverse head and shoulders. So this is going to be a big test for tomorrow. We have a left shoulder here, right? We have our head, and then we have like a possible right shoulder. So we have to see, do we bounce off 578 to 580 to start pushing back up like this tomorrow after CPI? Or do we get a rejection and we fail to hold 578, then we just continue to make lower highs and lower lows? That could also be what the trend is suggesting as we're continuing to downtrend. It could go either way depending on if we could hold 578 to 580 or not. Once again, if we hold the levels around here, we should be looking for a big bounce. If not, the inverse head and shoulders could fail us. So make sure you watch this setup very closely. Watch 578 on SPY. If that fails us, well, we have 580 first, then 578. If that fails us, we revisit the lows from yesterday. If we break past 585, we turn bullish. As of right now, we look a little bit more bearish, but then it all depends on CPI, of course. Same thing with ES, similar setup. We're going to be looking for support at 5860 and then 5840. If we bounce and get back to a 5900, we could bounce. Otherwise, there's this inverse head and shoulder setup, and we'll see what this leads to. So just keep this in mind. With the inverse head and shoulders that's developing, we'll see if this leads to some kind of reversal or not for the markets. That depends on CPI. So just watch this setup. So watch the levels I called out, and we'll have to see what happens. Nvidia is showing weakness after we got some negative news. So we're looking for 130 to 128 as our main support zone. We'll see if 130 holds us. If not, we could be dumping to these lows all over again. And if we do hold 130, we want to get back above 133 to bounce. So watch those levels. It depends on CPI. I see weakness. We could be revisiting 130. We'll see if it holds. For Bitcoin, because we're not holding above 96,000, there's going to be a risk of us dipping closer to 95,000 flat. So be prepared for a potential dip if that ends up being the case. For NQ, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We want to see if this could try to get back above 21,000. If not, we're looking for 20,800. There is one concern I have about NQ, and that is when you look at the 4-hour time frame, we're rejecting off our 20 EMAs. So this is continuing to cause rejections, which could be leading to even bigger moves down. There's a possible inverse head and shoulders on NQ, which could be looking to a big reversal. If not, this will continue to fall to 20,800 below. So just keep that in mind. For the QQQ, we have a very similar setup right here. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders as well. There's a left shoulder here. There's a head and there's this right shoulder. Will we get a bounce off 502 for this to pan out, or will we just continue to collapse? If not, if we can't hold 502, we're at risk of 500 again. We could invalidate the inverse head and shoulders here. Just be careful on the QQQ. It does look a little bit weaker, so watch to see if support holds. Aapl also has a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder. We got to hold 233. If not, this could be dumping to 230. So watch that support to see if it holds. For the IWM Russell 2000, we pumped very nicely to 220, but we're not holding above it. There's going to be a risk of us dipping closer to about 215 if we can't hold above 218. So keep that in mind. For coin, we pumped very nicely to 268, then we rejected. We'll see if we could end up holding support. I do think this might be dipping closer to about 248, and we'll see if that holds or not. Amazon pumped very, very nicely. It's about 222 and rejected. We got to try to hold up 220. Otherwise, we could be dipping to 216. So be careful on Amazon. Meta's rejecting. We were supposed to hold 594. We got to close above that, or else we could be dumping to 588, if not all the way down to this gap flow at 585. So be careful on Meta. There's a risk of downside. Excuse me. Excuse me. Microsoft has a bit of a downtrend as well. We need to hold 420. Otherwise, we could be dipping to about 412 to 410. And then Google's also on a bit of a downtrend. We need to try to get back above 193. Otherwise, we favor 190 or below. That being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Just know that as far as the VIX goes, this is showing some strength. Will it get a big bounce thanks to CPI? Will it get a rug pull? We'll have to wait and see. I'll give you guys one more update in just a couple of hours. Just know the market is showing some weakness, and so is Tesla, unfortunately. We'll see if we could hold 400. But like I said before, I'm not too worried about that. What matters more is what's going to happen with CPI and how that affects us for tomorrow. Anyways, have a good day, guys. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours, and peace out.